Welcome back to the next installment of Civic Duties. This is Civic Duties II, the sequel. All right, so just to recap the first video, civic duties are what all U.S. citizens are responsible for. There are mandatory and voluntary ones. To understand what the mandatory ones are, go back to watch the first video if for whatever reason you're watching part two, but otherwise, go ahead and keep watching. So now it's time to dive into voluntary. Remember, voluntary is like volunteering, it's optional. It's encouraged, but it's optional. Voting. All right, this is the big one. Something you should all be doing when you are 18. If you are not registered to vote, you got to do so, man. Like, it's important stuff. This is very important to help you decide who's in charge, who's going to represent you and your community, and not only that, what laws are going to be in place. In California, there are propositions where you can vote. One of the biggest ones was about DoorDash. This was in the last election cycle about DoorDash being able to operate as with their employees as contractors or keep them as employees. The big uh, debate, stuff like that. There are many issues you should be aware of. There are elections, not for the president. Most people come out to vote during presidential elections every 4 years, but there are elections happening on a very regular basis. For instance, in California, just recently, we had the California recall election where um, Californians got to vote whether they wanted to recall Governor Gavin Newsom or to keep him in office. So there's a lot going on. There's always voter drop off as well during midterm elections, which are it's every 2 years, yeah. So it's the election, and then 2 years later you get a midterm, which is for Congress seats, and in the after not the after school in the House of Representatives and Congress, it's the Senate. So you're trying to decide whether who gets control. Are Republicans, Democrats? Who do you want to represent you? It's always very contentious. It's very tumultuous, all right? So voting in these, you need to come out and vote during these midterm elections because most of the time, younger people don't come out to vote during the midterms. It's just a fact. So older people do tend to check out the midterm elections, which sways the voting into to be more favorable for older people. But if you want someone to represent your interests, you definitely want to vote. All right. Here's a link to register to vote. Vote.gov/register/CA. You're using the /CA if you're located within California. If for whatever reason you're in a different state, it may be different. So like if you're in Arizona, it may be /AZ. I don't know. I only know California. So uh, definitely register to vote. If you need help registering to vote or want any information on that, please let me know. I'd be more than happy to. This is a civic duty, and I know it's voluntary, but it should be mandatory, man. This is something really big. Maybe not mandatory where you get in trouble, of course, but it's very important. You should be coming out to vote. All right. It's something big to represent you, your community. You're voting on issues that are strongly to you. Doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum you are, as long as you're getting out to vote and having a say in your government, that's amazing. All right. Next up, staying informed. Yes, this one's very simple to do, and also very important to do. All right, it's you got to know what's going on around you, what's going on locally, nationally, internationally, what's happening in your own communities, what's going on in the community around you, your houses, that's where you're living. What about nationally? What's going on in the United States? Or internationally, what's going on in the world? What's happening over in Asia, Africa, Europe? All Australia, what's going on? This is stuff that you need to understand. So using social media smartly is a great way to go. So if you're following sites on Twitter like CNN, AP News, Union Tribune, KUSI, I mean, you can Follow whatever it is that you like. Personally, I love sports, so I follow a lot of sports accounts, but I also like knowing about the world, so I follow local accounts for what's going on in the community, what's going on in the state levels, uh, following just your city's official Twitter account is helpful. Basically, just understand what's happening. There's also other apps for very locally, so like the Ring app or Citizen app. These are apps where you can see what's going on in the houses around you. I use Ring a lot to see like people use it for like missing dogs and cats, but it's also sometimes you'll hear a helicopter go over and it's like saying stuff, so you can go on there and see, be like, hey, what's going on? Like, is anyone hearing this? I'm only hearing blue shirt. What did you get? And it's a nice community that you can talk about like what's going on around you. Um, but yeah, so definitely check out this stuff. Watching the news helps. Reading the paper, of course, but I know you guys aren't reading the paper, so waking up and using Twitter like it's the paper or whatever. Um, like I said in the last video, don't be ending up on Dago TV. That's not really being involved. Sometimes they have stuff about what's going on in the community, like they'll tweet like Padres news or whatever. But you know, you want to follow reputable news sites. That means trustworthy news sites. So check stuff out that you know is legit. Don't be following sites that are completely random. Always make sure you see the blue check mark and you know your sources. Okay. Next up, staying involved in the community. Participate in the world around you in your local communities and give back. All right. It could be something as small as just shopping at local businesses, not Jack in the Box. It's not a local business. I don't care if it's right across the street from your house. That's not a local business. All right? A local bit that's a chain. A local business is like the taco shop on the corner that's family owned. Going to a little grocery store that's mom and pop shop. Going to something like a comic book store that's owned by just someone in the community. Different little things that you're participating, you're buying from them. Going to the farmers market, giving back. I always love trying to support local businesses because you're helping out. That's what community is all about. It could also be as large as organizing big community events. I know many of you might not be doing this, but if you organize a canned food drive or if you put on a car wash for a fundraiser, something like that, those are ways to get involved in the community and helping out. Um, you do this because you want to see your community, your neighborhood succeed, and you want to help out. You're living around these people, you have your community, you're around these people all the time. Why would you want to make your community or neighborhood just bad? Why would you want it to be a bad spot to live in? You want to make it better. So that's why you'll see a lot of community outreach and different things. So get involved. Finally, all right, I lied about the voting. The most important one is being tolerant, okay? You need to be open and understanding of all people, regardless of their backgrounds. Always keep an open mind. Nobody's weird. Nobody's like don't be rude. Okay? Just be accepting. Be understanding. Some people may be different than you, but that's okay. That's who they are. Just be understanding and open to that. Talk to them, have conversations. Hear people out. That's all that this is asking you. Not to be rude. Don't be going out starting fights, slamming hate speech around. That's horrible. Do not do that. Definitely just keep an open mind. Always talk to people. Be a good person. Respect others. I know you've heard this a lot, but treat others as you would like to be treated. Definitely always try to take the high road. Things like that. All right. There's no space for haters. We all want to be the motivators, right? So just be a good person. And that's what matters the most. Finally, of course, share with others. This is the last on the list. Everything you've learned in this video and the last video, you want to tell your friends, your family, people in the neighborhood about what you should be doing as someone who lives in the community, as a United States citizen, things like that. So, um, yeah, like and subscribe. Nah, I'm joking. You don't have to like this video. You don't even have to subscribe. As long as you're watching, it's all that matters. So Finally, let's get to our learning check. We finally got to the end of the civic duties. It's like a 20 plus minute video if you put them all in one. That's why we got to split it up. Whew! All right, so to earn credit for this video, you need to complete the following prompt. In 6 to 8 sentences, I want you to explain what voluntary civic duties are and why they are important to the world around us. And then, in addition, which one is the most important to you and why? So I know I said tolerant of others was important, but what if you think voting is more important or helping out in the community? I want to hear from you. What do you think is the most important and why? Or are they all important? Talk. I want to hear your opinions about voluntary, okay? So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm always here to help. As always, have a nice day.